Good morning, everyone. Happy exam day to you all. Good to see some people already arriving in the chat channel on this very auspicious occasion. Yes, I'm sure you'll do fine. Yuan and Paul and Lauren. The big day is here. It's going to be so fine. So fine. It will be, I'm sure, a cruisy afternoon. Everyone can have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever your beverage of choice is and sit back and do the exam. Getting a bit restless. It's like that on the day of exams, isn't it, Yuan? Uh, you certainly get a little bit fidgety. I'm well out of practice with exams. It's been a very long time since I've sat an exam. And I suppose I have mixed feelings about them, but generally, I used to love sitting exams. I would try and harness that nervous energy that you're talking about there, Yuan, and I'd try and get really hyped up. Generally, I was very prepared, so I'd get hyped up and I'd be listening to Eminem and AC/DC and Metallica, and by the time I got into the exam, I was just ready to destroy that exam. But that was certainly not the approach for everybody. But I used to find exams to be a bit of fun. How do you guys usually approach exams? Do you have a particular way in which you approach exams on the day? Is it more about trying to be relaxed and maybe calm? Anybody out there showing uh, any signs of schizotypal personality traits? Are we showing some superstitious thinking? Are we wearing our lucky underpants by chance? Anybody wearing their lucky underwear today? We need a DJ Groot session before the exam, or dearie me, that might be a bit hard to um, arrange before, but we can certainly arrange one to wind up mind, brain, and behavior too if you want. Voodoo. Yeah, voodoo's good. Mama's got some voodoo. A cold bath. Yeah, okay. Cold bath. I can see how that would be potentially like a mindfulness exercise then, Narame. You can't help but focus on that physical sensation of the cold water, I'm sure. Oh, Callie, 16 years since your last exam. I will wish you luck indeed. Good for you. Well done. Devil worship. Okay, just make sure there's a goat involved. Wearing favorite clothes. Yeah, you've got to be comfy, don't you? You've got to be comfy to sit an exam, I think. I used to like to be comfy. Nobody's going to know or remember what frock you wore to the mind, brain, and behavior exam of 2020. You haven't mastered it. Now, well, look, it's first year, isn't it? Now's a good time to start exploring what sorts of approaches to sitting exams already work for you. Paul has already meditated. Good for you. I've been thinking about getting into some mindfulness practice again. I've been watching some work from one of our school academics, Nicholas Van Dam, and he's inspired me to get involved. Well, to start looking at mindfulness. Again, I used to find it really interesting, but I'm well out of practice. Lucky hair tie for your exam. Okay, very good. Relaxed. I like your approach there, Chen Long. Yeah, relaxed because you've already tried your best to learn. That's right. No more time to learn. All you can do now is sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. Oh my God, we're buffering. Come on, internet. Stick with me, internet. Not again. Okay, so it looks like we're buffering again. Oh, I'm not buffering. Okay. Oh, it's not buffering on your end. Okay, it is on mine. So in my stream view, it looks like I am. But, all right, well, that's good. It's lying to me. YouTube is out to kill me, I swear. Okay. Hey, Narame, you did the practice questions and practice exams for your preparation. Is 70% achievable for you? I do not know. I can't answer that question. Hey, no one. Yeah, I am using a GoPro as a webcam. That's right. The weather is really bad today, so that's probably why the stream is a little bit laggy. Cynthia, do not take this as a sign that you're going to fail. That's not the case, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a pretty good camera. To tell you the truth, YouTube and the internet out here have been giving me a hell of a time this year. I just haven't had a chance to get my 5D Mark IV, wherever it is over here, back up and running as a webcam, which I did have earlier on in the year, but I've just had an electrician out and there's some new cords and installed, some Ethernet cords and whatnot, so hopefully we'll get this whole streaming worked out. Of course, it's just going to be after the semester, which is terrible timing, but it is what it is. So, how are you all feeling about the exam? Do you, about finding the exam? Do you all know where to find the exam? I hope you do. I was thinking that maybe we could have a quick look at the exam to make sure we all know where it is. And in fact, let me turn on my display capture and turn my screen off for a moment so that we can all have a look into the exam. So what we have here, and why is that not coming up on the screen? Oh, that's right, we've got a 30-second delay. So what we've got here is obviously the Mind, Brain and Behavior 2 website, the Canvas page, and it's very easy to find the exam. If you don't already know where it is, all you need to do is go to the modules section of the web page, and then you will find it there. That's it. Very top, exam module, and at the very top there, we have got the actual exam, Mind, Brain and Behavior 2. And if I go into student view, let's take a moment to do that. There we go. And then we click on through. So here is the exam, and you can already click on it, but you won't be able to start it until you can see here until 3 o'clock. So you won't be able to start it until 3 o'clock. This is where it is, I suppose. That's all you need to know for now. So the other thing to remember, of course, is that we've got some FAQs here that you can run through today. If you need technical support, you can click here. But this is where to find it. So I've had a few questions over the weekend from people asking where to find the exam, and it is in the modules page at the very top. It's there, and very easy to find indeed. So let's have a look at these questions and see how we're going here. Yes, you'll have access to Peerwise during the exam. So you've got access to all of the resources. I'm not closing any of the resources. You've got 3 hours and 15 minutes in total. And that is plenty of time to be able to answer the exam questions. More than enough time. So that will be fine. And yes, so somebody just asked what if the exam is in sections. Yeah, so it is. Have a look at that exam FAQ, frequently asked questions document, and you'll find that the exam is indeed in sections, with the clinical questions first, the developmental questions second, then social, then personality, and each of those sections have 25 questions, and then the last 20 questions come from research methods right at the very end, and there'll be a clear sign for you at the start of the exam, and it will say clinical psychology section. And then once you've finished the clinical psychology section, there'll be a little sign that says end of clinical psychology section, start of developmental psychology section, and so forth. That carries through the exam so that you can know where you're at. Callie says the thunderstorm and rain last night felt appropriate for the night before the exam. Okay, yes, I can understand that. So there's some questions here about an extra 30 minutes. Let me have a look at that and see what's that about. Where is the extra 30 minutes? There is an extra 30 minutes? I am confused. That makes two of us. No one. If you have an extra time allocation, that means that you have applied for alternative exam arrangements or special consideration. So there will be some students out there that are not necessarily starting the exam at the same time. There can be slight variations. So just make sure that you've seen when your exam starts. And students with special consideration and alternative exam arrangements, everybody that's had an approved special consideration application has had their alternative exam arrangements applied. So even though everybody's going to the same exam, there's bespoke settings for each person behind the scenes. So that might be what we're talking about there. Hey Miani, yes, it's going to appear as one big long list of questions. You'll be able to go back to previous questions. You'll be able to skip over questions. It's all on one page. So you'll be able to scroll up and down as much as you like, change answers as much as you like. And when you're done, make sure to submit at the end. That's right, that Adam's got it. There's no calculations involved. No calculations. So really, it's a pretty cruisy exam. It's open book. Of course, not everybody gets the same questions. So there's a big bank of questions sitting behind each section of the exam. So there's a bigger pool of questions sitting behind the clinical psychology section of the exam, for example, or the personality section. And each one of those exam sections draws 25 questions from that bigger pool. Whilst the questions are equivalent in terms of difficulty, not everybody will get the same set of questions. What else have we got here? And yes, you'll be able to use perusal during the exam, Nina. That's fine. Hey, Wei Liang, no, it won't slow down the server with everybody taking it at 3. So we've done lots of testing already and simulations and Canvas. This isn't even going to stress Canvas a little. It's all fine. You are able to. So Jess T raises a great question. Are we able to start answering questions straight away, or do we need to wait? So in typical exam conditions, you would have 15 minutes reading time during which you could not answer questions, and then you would have to commence answering questions after that. That's not something that I can police. You are welcome to answer your questions as soon as you get in if you want. You've got 3 hours and 15 minutes time. I do recommend using that 15 minutes time when you first get in to read through the exam and get a sense of the questions and get a sense of which ones you know the answer to and which ones are going to be difficult. That will give you a sense of maybe how you're going to manage your time during the exam. But you will be fine. What about Piazza? Yes, Piazza is still open. Now, you can't be posting on Piazza during the exam. So no talking on Piazza during the exam. If you communicate with another student during the exam, then that is going to result in academic penalty. You'll get smacked on the bottom. No, but seriously, you can't be talking to each other while you're doing this exam. It's got to be your own work. I do joke about having voodoo and being able to, of course, identify plagiarism and copying and people working together and those sorts of problems when it occurs. And I've said it jokingly, but it is true. And I've outlined that, there is academic penalties for people who would cheat in this way on the exam. And it's very true. Lots of people in first semester have gone through a process of having to go through an academic board review and so forth. You can read through the Piazza questions. That's right. There'll be no commenting, though. Chen Long, I'm sure you'll be fine to pass Mind, Brain, and Behavior too. So all that you need to remember, and I've had quite a few emails over the weekend about instances in which people haven't done something. So all you need to remember, if you haven't done something like the lab report or the assessment literacy hurdle, contact me, please, as soon as possible, because you won't be able to pass Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 until you've completed all of the tasks. So you've got to do everything to be able to pass the course. So again, REP was optional. You didn't have to do REP, but if you did, then good for you. You've learnt some about research, and you have got some experience, and you've got some credits available as well, and they can be up to 5. If you did the lab report, good for you. You're all good. You've got some credits there, and you've completed that hurdle, that task that needed to be completed. The assessment literacy task, have to have completed that. um, the attendance requirement. So if you have fallen short of the attendance requirement, you will know who you are, because Caitlin and I will have contacted you already with the task, with a task that you'll need to do, a writing task to make up for falling short of the attendance hurdle requirement. And I was a little bit lenient. I did lower the threshold a little, given everything that 2020 has thrown at us. So if you have not received an email from me, you are fine. Or Caitlin, I should say. Will there be repeated questions from the practice questions? Narama asks. There'll be some questions that are similar to the practice questions. So those practice questions were intended to give you a very good sense of some of the questions that are on the exam, and I've certainly got one or two that are quite similar to the practice questions. What is my email again? My email, Isabella, is grootc@unimelb.edu.au. Hi, Chathuni. Yeah. So one of the reasons that the exam marks are not released is because it could be potentially misleading to do so. So at the end, once the exam is completed and everybody's sat the exam, and there still will be some people sitting the exam tomorrow, and I need to not read the chat while I'm speaking. So yeah, there'll still be some people sitting tomorrow. Once that's all said and done, I'll take the Grade Center data from Canvas, and I'll download that, and that will be when I merge that data with the data from the REP system. I add in the REP credits. I then calculate the total score for each of you for Mind, Brain and Behavior 1, again across REP, the assignment, the lab report, and the exam, and make sure that everybody's completed the attendance hurdle and the assessment literacy hurdle. And then I will have a look at the overall distribution of scores. Now, if that distribution of scores doesn't look like it should, if it's not quite right, and let's face it, this year is a really odd year, it could end up that the distribution of scores doesn't look quite right, then I might do some modifications to the distribution of marks to bring them into the type of distribution that we would typically see year in, year out, coming out of first year psychology. So if you were in Mind, Brain and Behavior 1, you would recall that I did this in first semester. With the first semester distribution, I think I stretched it up a little. Maybe everybody got an extra point or two, and the very high scores got stretched out a little more because they were bunched in at the top, and it was a bit problematic. So I will explain all of this once that's done. So once I do that process, then I present the marks to what's called the Board of Examiners, and that's where the other coordinators in the school and the Director of Teaching and Learning will scrutinize the marks preparation, and if accepted, then they'll be ratified, then they get uploaded to the internet, and then in a few days time after that, you get to see them come live on your end. And I will write a report. It'll be a very brief report telling you about the distribution of scores in the Mind, Brain and Behavior 2 cohort, and the precise details of any changes to the distribution that occurred as a result of as a result of changing scores. Yeah, hope that makes sense. Hey, Lou Sunny, no, I'm not going to send you a summary to tell you whether or not you've completed all the things per se. You should know whether or not you've completed the things. I will provide you with a summary code, however, if it turns out that you've not completed something. So when the marks go live and you look at your mark online, it's going to have a code. It'll either have a score like 72 H2B, or it will have another code, which might be something like WHMISS, which would be withheld, something's missing. And then we would talk about what aspect of the assessments is known to be missing and that you'd have to fix up to get your actual score. You're very welcome, Adam. Good luck for the exam. Nobody knows precisely when we will be back on campus. No one. That will heavily depend on a vaccine. We won't be back on campus in semester 1 next year. So the earliest would be semester 2. Pickley, yes, everything is in place. I will send you another email communication today. So, Pickley, I'll send you another email because I'm going to move where your exam is so that we don't confuse the others. Not that they'd be able to get into it anyway, but just for the sake of avoiding confusion. I hope that's okay. And yes, everything's sorted. No one says what? Mengjue, if the question asks what is the sign of, do we only answer signs instead of symptoms? That's a very good question, Mengjue. I think you could consider that would use the terms interchangeably. Yeah, earliest is semester 2, no one. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Rima, good observation. It's a system glitch. I think we will look. We're trying to find. Obviously, it's up in the air. Anything can happen. So there could be a vaccine by then. We could be in a third wave and locked down again. We don't know, right? So anything could happen. So the whole dual delivery thing, it's just a reference to saying we're going to try and do something in person on campus, maybe at some point. It might be a one-off thing. It will entirely depend on what's going to be happening with COVID restrictions next year. But yeah, you could. Everything that we are planning is for online. Paul, you're looking forward to Mind Brain and Behavior 1. That's good. I'm glad. I think you'll find it to be really interesting. And Sneha, yeah, no, I'm just suppose I am erring on the side of caution around exam language. I can't remember what it is at this point in time, but in the exam, here's a little hint for you, for those tuning in. In the exam, I do not distinguish between signs and symptoms in a question. I don't ask you to tell me what signs or symptoms are separately. Yeah, it's a weird time to be doing study, isn't it? It's a weird time to be having the university experience, which is typically, a very campus-oriented experience. So, everybody's making the best of it. But I do feel for you guys, because the campus experience is a special one, and hopefully at some point in your degrees you're going to be able to come and experience the University of Melbourne campus and all that it has to offer. And it will just be all the sweeter when you actually get to experience it. Get to enjoy more Dr. Groot. Oh, in Mind, Brain and Behavior 1? Well, yes and no, Paul. So I am I'm going to be passing the baton of coordination to another academic. I've been coordinating first year psychology year round, mostly. Well, actually, apart from summer, even though I do teach into summer. I've been coordinating Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 and 2 for quite some time now, and I won't be coordinating Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 anymore because Mama needs a break. But it has just worked out that with some very large research projects, I won't have time, essentially, to coordinate both Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 and Mind, Brain and Behavior 2. So whilst I am sad to be stepping back to coordinating just half the year, I am also really happy to not have such a load on my plate, which is good. Particularly as new big research and partnership things start to come in around mental health and stigma and so forth. But the new coordinator is fantastic. You're going to love them. And they have been here at the university and working as a lecturer for a very long time. I've been working with them since 2007. They are wonderful, and you will have a wonderful Mind, Brain and Behavior 1. That's right, Jathuni, you were my last Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 group last semester. That's right. I'll still be teaching the research method, so I'll have some live streams into Mind, Brain and Behavior 1. And there's some other things happening. So in terms of students' interests around mental health and around careers and psychology, there are some things happening on this YouTube channel. So I've got a number of essentially interviews lined up where I'm going to be meeting with CEOs of mental health organizations and psychologists and people with lived experience and discussing, and people from government, and starting to get a regular, sort of like a video podcast going around these sorts of topics that are of interest to students, and students are always asking me for more around these sorts of things. So keep an eye out for that. There's going to be lots of opportunities to interact with myself and with leaders in the mental health field in Australia and internationally. And that will be kicking off in summer. I won't be teaching other subjects, no one. I've got more than enough on my plate. So I've got lots of research to do. Hey Jeffrey, that's right. So you would only be using a Z-test, a single sample Z-test, when you're working in a situation where the population standard deviation is known. That's right. Uh, I'm actually doing some advising around policy development with the federal government at the moment. No one around stigma, and hopefully there's going to be more of that to come. So watch this space, and I know a lot of students are actually interested in policy development. So this is something that I'm looking forward to having somebody from the federal government along to discuss in one of these video podcast type things. So the Z test wouldn't work in the repeated measures independent group sort of study design. No, the population means not known in those instances. REMA necessarily could be in the case of a Z test, but generally speaking, you never find yourself. It's very rarely that you find yourself in the situation where you have to do a single sample Z test. T tests are more often, or are used more often in the real world, in the real research world, or other types of tests that correspond to what a t test is. There's other types of, we've just sort of scratched the surface of what t tests, what between group difference tests are and inferential statistical tests are, and you'll learn a lot more in second year of psychology about these things. So okay, Callie, thanks for dropping in. Good luck. You've got this today. Yep. Well done. Oh, thank you very much. Cynthia, that's okay to have a mini breakdown on the day of an exam. I completely understand that. That is very common, but you'll get through it. Remember, it's open book, so if you get stuck, you can go and look at the lecture slides. So that's pretty good, right? Henry, the critical value of the t-score can be negative or positive. Sneha, no, I'm not part of second or third year subjects. But if you keep going into postgraduate psychology, by the time you're there, I will be teaching about clinical psychology and telehealth, working with clients just like this, via webcam, by telephone, by chat, and so forth. Hey, Michelle, yes, that's right. So if you happen to disconnect from the internet, you can come back in. The timer will still keep going, though, so that's something to be mindful of. You want to get back in as soon as possible. And remember, if you do have an issue, there are numbers that you can call. So it would be a good idea to write down those numbers that I've shared in the frequently asked questions document, and I've also shared at the start of the exam. Write them down, and that's where you can call for technical assistance if you are experiencing a technical difficulty during the exam. Yeah, it's not uncommon to have a bit of a breakdown during an exam. Yeah, that's right. But again, when you had that experience, you probably weren't sitting at home doing the exam, and it probably wasn't open book. So now, well, actually, why don't we? This is actually a really good topic that Cynthia's raised. The topic of exam stress today, and we've sort of talked about how we've been feeling, but why don't we workshop what we could do if we do feel stressed today during the exam? So if that was to happen, if you, for example, came across a question, you had no idea what the answer was, and maybe it's the first question in the exam, and you felt particularly anxious, maybe you started to have, a shortness of breath, tightness in the chest, all of those sorts of experiences of anxiety, what could you do? What would we do to deal with some stress during the exam? Deep breaths, yeah. Activating that parasympathetic nervous system. That's right, Paul. Yeah, deep breaths. Stop. Whew. Take a deep breath, and just even that action is going to be really helpful and help us to calm down. Stuck on the first question sounds so you. So we could take a deep breath. Yuan's got a good suggestion. Move away, have a drink of water. That's right. So I think we're talking about variations on ways to interrupt that anxious experience, aren't we? We're looking for ways that we can engage our, as I said before, our parasympathetic nervous system, taking a deep breath. Oh, listening to calming music, making a tea. Good. Susan, what a great suggestion. Switching to another question, which seems to be more friendly. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And let's face it, even the best students out there are today probably going to find a couple of questions that they have no clue about. There's 120 questions. It would be very odd if somebody out there knew all of the questions and the answers with no trouble whatsoever. Statistically speaking, that almost never happens. Some ambient piano music. Yeah, I like that suggestion. That's very good. So it could happen to everybody, to all of us. These are all really good suggestions. I like the idea of a nice warm cup of tea. That's a good idea. Go to the section you're most confident in. Yeah, that's good. And answer some questions and get some confidence as you start to answer some questions with content that you're familiar with. And then what do you do with these questions that you're absolutely stuck on? Do you think that you should just not try to answer them and just leave them? Or should you try to answer them? Bianca, you won't be able to jump into the exam module early. It will open at the advertised time for you. So you actually won't be able to enter the exam until that specific time. Tea always makes you go to somewhere. We can all guess where that is. A happy place, I'm sure. Thinking about politics makes no one calm, dear God. Yeah, that's right, Yuan. Just give your best guess. Keep an eye on the clock, because you're in a situation which is unique this time around, in that you have an open book experience. So you could go looking for the answer and try to find the answer. And if you can't find the answer, then maybe just make your best guess. You can imagine, though, that finding the answer in lecture slides and notes and whatnot, that could take a little bit of time if you were trying to do that for every single question. So keep your eye on the clock. So if we exclude the 15 minutes reading time, we've got the exam with 120 questions and 180 minutes of exam time, again, excluding the 15 minutes reading time. That's 1.5, that's a question every 1.5 minutes. Yeah. So that's a question every 90 seconds. It's not too much, is it? Not too much time. So we don't want to be spending 5 minutes on every question trying to find the answer in the open book materials, the Mind, Brain, Behavior 2 Canvas materials. Make sure you keep an eye on the time. Don't spend way too much time on any particular question, because each question is equally weighted. Every question is just worth 1 mark. Yeah, Cynthia. Yeah, Coke. So Coke can help with alertness, but can also, the caffeine in there could also make us a little bit anxious, couldn't it? Yeah, good idea, Tilly. Educated guests, don't spend extra time on them. Come back. Yeah, that's good. So move on. Do the ones you can. Come back to those difficult ones. Abby's got great advice here. Try and eliminate any options you can. And that's a really good strategy. You'll find for many questions that there might be 2 options that are clearly wrong, or are more wrong than 2 options that are sort of, one's going to be correct and one might be almost correct. And that's a classic way to write a set of multiple choice questions. Yeah, this, honestly, Emmanuel, I've read the exam many times now as we've edited it and proofread it and imported it from my playpen into the real subject and edited it and proofed it again. And it's so fine. You've got really nothing to worry about with this exam. Yeah, Chathuni, good idea. Yeah, come back to them. You might even come up with the answer subconsciously by the time you come back with it. Yeah, that's a good point. Nothing to lose by making a best guess. That's so true, Daniel. Very true. Definitely don't leave any questions blank. You've got to take if you've got no idea, then just make your best guess, and you've got a 25% chance of getting it right, even if you knew nothing, right? There's 4 options, so you've got a 1 in 4 chance of guessing correctly. The psych exam does not need us to compare dinosaurs and crocodiles. This is true. I feel like another exam might have made you do this. I think back on bio, Charlize, sounds like bio was hard. I think back to I think it was a second year biology subject when I was in undergrad. And speaking of, panic attacks and whatnot during exams, we were in the big exam hall, and at the end of the exam hall, the way that you had to get into it was a series of ramps that zigzagged up to the entry and exit. And all of the seats in the exam hall were facing the ramp. And so anyway, during reading time, I heard one of the people near me start to scrunch their paper. And then they started to scream and cry, and they were very unhappy because they obviously were not ready for the exam. So anyway, they ran out, and it was very, you had to feel for this person because they were very vocal, and as they ran up the ramps, I shouldn't be laughing, but there was lots of wah, 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 wah. It's set in my mind. But anyway, that was an event. I've never seen anything like it since. But I think sitting exams at home, it's just such a relatively calming experience. I think, gosh, I wish I'd got to sit some exams at home. That would be great. You get to be comfy. You could do this on the couch if you wanted to, with a cat cuddled up next to you with a cup of tea. Um, oh, Emmanuel, wow, open book, but no time to look at your notes. Yeah, so there is that tension there between being able to research um, what you need and being having the time to do that. Sorry, just part of my research team pinging me on my phone. They can deal without me for 10 more minutes. Oh, written sections. Well, I suppose that's one of the good things about the Mind Brain and Behavior 2 exam, isn't it? There's no short answer questions. It's all multiple choice. Yeah. I hear you, Cynthia. Those genius friends. Deary me. No, you won't need to be using SPSS or JASP. You remember from the correlation practical classes and the preparatory work, you were introduced to what scatter plots are, though. You'll need to know what a scatter plot is. Malt. Yeah. Malt indeed. That's a really good question, Bear. I think you might be onto something there. So Bear has asked in the chat here, do we think that open book or at home exams might be worked into a new COVID normal future at the university? I would not be at all surprised if sitting exams from home becomes the new normal. I think that it probably is so much cheaper to do it basically from a business perspective to run an exam from home. And from students' perspectives, a lot of the feedback we get is that it was less stressful than sitting in an exam hall. So maybe that might be something that doesn't go back to face-to-face. Maybe the future of exams is sitting them at home. I don't know. There's some speculation floating around, and I would also sort of wonder if that might be the direction. My opinion is, what's my opinion? Yeah, I would be in favor of continuing to sit exams from home. I think we need to work through the processes a little bit more. I certainly have, from an academic integrity perspective in terms of identifying and dealing with cheating. I've certainly got my ways of doing that, and I think we could be doing more around that to make sure that everybody is doing the right thing, and that's not. But we also don't want to be setting up a situation where people are sort of lured into doing the wrong thing. Anyway, there's bugs to iron out, but yeah, I think at-home exams are less stressful for students than the actual exam hall experience, and just even based on that, I would be in favor of doing the exams at home. So there, as Yuan said, yeah, then look at that. Maybe COVID has brought a positive too there. Yeah, it's all about the pink fluffy pajamas, Cynthia. So, of course, this won't be the last live stream, even though for all intents and purposes, Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2 will effectively be over for most people today. There's still things happening around marks and whatnot, and we could always finish off the semester in the same way in which we started, with another Mind, Brain, and Boogie night, if you want to. If we want to get together and play some music and celebrate our semester together, and maybe we have a fluffy pink pajama party. But we'll talk more about that in time. Movie night. Yeah, movie night. Oh, yep, that is still working its way through. Yes, something is going to be happening with a movie night, Jathuni. It's not going to happen just yet, but we'll work on it. I'm still working on it. Another Mind, Brain, and Boogie, please, says Mamma Mia. Yeah, everyone, all the best with the exam and happy hunting, says Paul. Thank you, Paul. So, Daniel says party. I agree with you, Daniel. I think we should have a good party. I'm aware that we're approaching an hour in now, so this is... Oh, Snaya, I so clearly communicated that. What are you talking about? Sad face emoji. I'll give you sad face emoji. Well, we'll make sure that you're there for the next one. Keep an eye out for those announcements, and we'll make sure you're there. Yep, so good luck, everyone, says Daniel. Yeah, I agree. So I don't want to break into your study time. We've been chilling out for an hour together. You probably want to do... Oh, you don't want to see Voodoo. Oh... I will make sure you get in there next time, Sneo. So you probably want to do some refreshing before the exam. So I will get out of your hair now. I'm going to leave you to work through how you're going to approach the exam and get all comfy and get all ready for 3 p.m. or whenever it is that your personal timetable says that you're starting the exam. And... Bear's going to be having a wine afterwards, cheersing everybody. Yeah, indeed. Congratulations to everybody on getting through this semester and this year with some, which has been a very trying time to study in, hasn't it? So, good luck, everyone, says MW. All right. So I will add my luck to that. Good luck, everyone. You'll be fine. Don't forget to breathe and to take a moment if you feel stressed and move on to another question, or seeing you're at home, make yourself a nice cup of tea. Just keep your eye on the timer and enjoy, I suppose, this opportunity to work through the knowledge that you've acquired in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 2. And I think you might find it enjoyable in some ways. So, of course, I'll be out there to field any difficulties, but I'm sure everybody's going to be fine based on the fact that everybody was fine the first time around in Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. So I think it'll be fine. Good luck, everybody. Have a great day today. And try to relax a little bit ahead of sitting the exam. I will check in with you after the exam is finished with an announcement, and maybe we'll have a post-exam chill stream later in the week. Okay, take care, everyone. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.